Today is a beautiful, thrilling day to dive deep into the absolute masterpiece currently unfolding on our. We have so much incredible drama to unpack. So, let us get right into the heart of the action. The sound of shattering glass echoes through the shadowy corners of the beach house, a visceral manifestation of a shattered heart as the golden boy of the Spencer dynasty drowns his future in a tumbler of whiskey. We are witnessing an irreversible turning point, a descent into darkness that threatens to consume everything in its path. I feel a profound sense of awe and heartbreak watching Will Spencer's current downward spiral, specifically because of that chilling moment in yesterday's episode when he poured his third drink before noon while D Sharp watched in silence. The way the camera slowly zoomed in on Will's trembling hand gripping the crystal glass told me everything I needed to know about his F. I genuinely think we are missing the point if we just view this as a standard soap opera breakup. The way I interpret it, this is a masterclass in portraying a young man buckling under the crushing weight of two wearing. Will looked up at DK with those bloodshot hollow eyes and slurred his words about losing everything. I felt a physical ache in my chest because it anchored his entire emotional collapse to the tangible reality of his empty living room. I know a lot of people are saying this storyline is dragging, complaining that was just moping around and feeling sorry for himself. But I actually think the slow burn is exactly what is needed because I feel like it authentically captures the suffocating nature of grief and addiction. I am absolutely captivated by the pacing here. I love the way the lighting changed when Will was sitting alone at the Bikini Bar earlier this week. The neon signs cast harsh, unforgiving shadows across his face, making him look older, harder, and infinitely more dangerous. When he ordered that next round, instead of going into the office, I felt a rush of adrenaline because it proved that the writers are not rushing his healing process. They are letting him marinate in his toxic choices. And it is brilliant television. I feel so incredibly validated by the writer's choice to have Electra Forrester deliver her final devastating rejection right in the middle of Will's chaotic living space. Because to me, it finally proved that she is not going to be a passive victim in this narrative. When Electra stood by the door, her posture rigid, and delivered those three cold words, "never getting back together," I felt a triumphant surge of respect for her character. I believe she is absolutely right to walk away. And here is why her dialogue backed up my take. She explicitly cited his violent outburst against Eric Forrester and RJ Forrester as the breaking. She did not just cry over a misunderstanding. She looked at the bruises he caused and drew a hard boundary. The subtle tremor in her voice when she told him that she did not even recognize the man she fell in love with made me feel the absolute finality of her decision. I feel a deep creeping dread every time Melissa Dillon enters the frame, specifically because of how she slithered onto Will's couch during his most vulnerable moment. In my opinion, this is the best they have written a manipulative opportunist in years. When Dillon poured him another drink and offered that sympathetic yet entirely predatory smile, I felt a shiver run down my. I think the director's choice to have them meet in the dim, the isolated setting of the beach house instead of the bustling Forrester Creations office was brilliant because it made me feel how effectively Dillon is cutting Will off from his support system. She is enabling his worst impulses. And when she softly told him that he needed more fun in his life, I knew instantly that she was laying the groundwork for his total destroy. I am fiercely loyal to this narrative direction because it forces us to look at the ugly side of the Spencer legacy. I feel a sickening sense of anticipation regarding Will's escalating drinking habits anchored entirely to this scene where he drunkenly howled at the moon like a wounded animal. That specific action, that raw, guttural scream into the night sky, made me realize that we are on the precipice of a massive trauma. I believe this show is meticulously laying the breadcrumbs for a catastrophic drunk driving accident. When Will stumbled toward his car keys on the counter only to be distracted by his phone buzzing, I felt my breath hitch in my throat. The tension is unbearable, and I love every single second of it. I feel so strongly that a vehicular tragedy is coming because this show has a rich, devastating history of using car accidents to shatter the canvas. I am instantly transported back to the horror of Steffi Forrester losing her twin sister Phoebe in that horrific. When Ridge watched that tragedy unfold, it changed the fabric of the show for I think the writers are intentionally evoking that same atmosphere of impending doom. Right? When Will aggressively brushed past D Sharp, insisting he was perfectly fine to handle his own life, I felt a terrible certainty that Will is going to get behind the wheel of a car in his inebriated, The reckless glint in his eye during that exchange was all the evidence I needed to confirm my feel a twisted sense of excitement thinking about how Bill Spencer is going to react to this impending disaster. Specifically because of the conversation he had with Will at the Spencer Publications office. When Bill stood by his desk exuding that classic dollar bill arrogance and told his son that the Forrester betrayal was just business, I felt a profound realization about their dynamic. Bill thinks money and power can fix any mistake. I genuinely believe that if Will causes a horrific crash, Bill will immediately launch a ruthless, illegal cover-up. The way Bill's jaw clenched when he vowed to protect his family at all costs during Tuesday's episode backed up my take entire. He will not let his golden boy go to prison, and I am so ready for the moral bankruptcy of that. I know some fans are exhausted by the constant Spencer versus Forrester warfare, but I actually think injecting a severe legal and medical crisis into the feud is exactly what is needed because I feel like it raises the stakes from corporate espionage to literal life and death. I love the subtle foreshadowing when Katie Logan Spencer warned Bill that his ruthless tactics would eventually cost them. There will ends up in a hospital bed fighting for his life or worse if he injures an innocent bystander. I feel that Katie's words will echo like a haunting prophecy. The emotional weight of watching Katie realize her son has become a casualty of his own toxic coping mechanisms is going to be Emmy-worthy material, and I am here for it. I feel a profound sense of tragedy when I look at how Will's relationship with Elektra has completely disintegrated anchored directly to the moment she hurled his necklace back. That prop, that simple piece of jewelry represented all their shared history, and the sound of it hitting the floor was definite. I think Will's reliance on alcohol is a direct attempt to numb the pain of that specific sound. When he stared at the discarded necklace on the floor of the beach house and immediately reached for his whiskey bottle, I felt the inescapable reality of his addiction taking root. He is trying to drown the memory of her disgust, and it is a beautifully tragic character choice. I am absolutely fascinated by the psychological warfare Melissa Dillon is waging, and I feel a surge of vindication every time Katie Logan Spencer grilled. When Katie cornered Dillon and demanded to know her true intentions, intentionally using her full name, I felt a rush of pure joy. Katie sees right through the sweet assistant act. I believe Dillon is actively hoping Will spirals completely out of control so she can be his sole savior and secure her place in the Spencer empire. The way Dillon's eyes darted toward the Spencer financial documents on her tablet before she went to comfort will prove my theory entirely. She is calculating his downfall, and the writing is so deliciously sinister. I feel a desperate need to defend Will's character arc right now because I think a lot of viewers are misinterpreting his violence as pure villain. The way I see it, when Will threw that disastrous punch at the bikini bar, accidentally striking Eric Forrester, it was not born of malice, but of profound, unmanageable pain. When the camera caught the immediate horrified regret flashing across Will's face as Eric stumbled backward, I felt a deep well of sympathy for him. He is a young clearly who has lost his emotional anchor, and the alcohol is stripping away his impulse control. I feel like this is the most compelling layered version of Will we have ever seen, because he is simultaneously the perpetrator and the victim of his own unravel. I feel an intense level of suspense regarding RJ, Forrest's role in this impending tragedy, specifically anchored to his smug demeanor in the Forrester design. When RJ confidently pitched the new youth line to Elektra, effectively stepping into the professional and romantic void Will left behind, I felt my blood boil on Will's back. I think RJ's constant provocation is going to be the trigger that finally sends Will over the edge. If Will sees RJ and Elektra sharing a romantic moment, perhaps leaving the office together laughing, I believe that visual will be the catalyst for him to storm out, get into his car drunk, and cause the catastrophic accident I am anticipating. The narrative threads are pulling tight, and it is a masterpiece of tension.